He reached down, touched my foot, and I looked down and I thought, what the world just happened here? I've never had this happen. You know, we're supposed to be serious, right? Like, hey, Uda.
I have a Patreon account, and I always give them an opportunity to ask a question. They're my top supporters. They're the reason I'm here. They're the reason you're here. And they've been with me the whole time. So this is one thing that I'm able to do for them. And so this is from Frank Lewis. What is one of the weirdest things that an opponent of yours has done to you, either pre-fight or during the fight, to get into your head?
Oh man, there's been so many. You know, it's such an interesting sport, right? Because there's the trash talk leading up to it. There's the post or the pre-fight press conferences and all those different things that we have to do, media obligations. I think when I fought Tony Ferguson, we were at the press conference, and then they pull the tables away, they pull the chairs away, and then we do the face-off. And it was really funny. And if anybody knows Tony Ferguson, you probably do. He's a legend in the sport. He's just a funny, quirky guy. He's known for saying weird off-the-wall things, doing weird off-the-wall things. His training videos are just kind of off the wall. But we were standing, we had faced off, and then we faced the crowd, kind of give one of these numbers. Crowd goes crazy. And he was standing there, reached over, went down and touched my foot like really, really fast. Like he was going to ankle pick me, because he always talked about an ankle pick, which is one of the traditional wrestling takedowns, right? And then later on in the interview said, yeah, I touched his ankle. I would have been able to ankle pick him right there. And it's really funny because it was kind of hilarious, but it was also kind of serious. You can't ever tell if Tony is, being serious or not. But he reached down, touched my foot, and I looked down and I thought, what the world just happened here? I've never had this happen. We're supposed to be serious, right? Like, hey, Uda. But then also in his mind, he's like, okay, I got one up on him right now. I touched his ankle. He wasn't ready for it. I'm like, of course I wasn't ready for it, bro. I was standing here looking at the crowd doing what I'm supposed to do. So I think that was probably the most off-the-wall thing, leading up to a fight. And then inside of the fight, there's been numerous times where we're talking back and forth, or you hit somebody and they're kind of making that noise where it's like, and it's just, it's an interesting sport because you are locked in and you are focused on creating bodily damage to another human being, but it's still a human being, right? So I'd say the Tony Ferguson thing was probably the funniest thing that's ever happened.
Interesting. How much of that is real? The trash talking and the mind games and stuff. I mean, how much of that is theatrics for show business? Because there has to be a certain aspect of show business within the UFC. And how much of that is real?
I think it's a great question, because I've gotten asked it a decent amount. Because obviously there's the crossover kind of a little bit between WWE and UFC when it comes to how the WWE builds up wrestling matches and fights and rivalries and whatnot. But mixed martial arts is 100%. It's 100% real. It's 100%. Whether it is, hey, I'm going to play this character to take this route, to talk this much trash, to say, hey, this is the guy I'm fighting, and I believe these three angles are the angles that I can do, say, be, to get in their head, right? I actually just listened yesterday to an interview with Conor McGregor, who was talking about his return, and they've talked about how he's changed. He now has 4 kids. He and his fiance Dee have been together for over a decade, and he went back to whenever he fought Jose Aldo, and he was using almost an opposite tactic that somebody could use on him now and say, hey, I don't have any kids, I don't have a wife, I am solely focused on fighting. And that was his way of getting in Jose's head, hey, you're not 100% focused on fighting because you have a wife, you have children, and all these things, right? So there's all these different tactics you can use, if you will, because the mental warfare really is part of it. It's really 100% of it until we actually step inside of the octagon, and some of that trash talk and some of that build up, that stuff transcends into the cage and translates into the cage, about how aggressive a guy is. Do you want him to be Do you want to lull him to sleep with being friends with him and being nice and cordial, or do you want to get him so far out of his comfort zone, make him see red so he then makes a mistake? And I think that's what happened in that fight between Conor and Aldo. Aldo got very over-eager, over-anxious, threw an overhand right, got knocked out. but it's all real. It's all, hey, me and you, I got to do my research on you. If I want to be interesting, I have to be interested in you, who you are as a man, a person, a human being, and then let me dissect it. Let me peel back the layers. Let me do my research. And then of course, some of it's a little bit over sensationalized when you're on the microphone to get eyeballs and to get the chatter going.
Do you guys, do you have a psychological training aspect to your regiment, that goes into that, or is that all just spur of the moment? That's the fighter that's trying to get inside the head, or is there a little bit more that goes behind it?
It's a good question. There's I think some of the best to ever do it, Chael Sonnen, Conor McGregor, Shawn O'Malley's doing a pretty good job of it right now these days. It also goes back to who your opponent is, right? My last opponent, Dustin Poirier, there wasn't going to be a lot of trash talk that I needed to worry about, right? He wasn't a big trash talker. Now, the complete opposite. Now I'm going up against the biggest and best and baddest trash talker in the game in Conor McGregor, or at least he used to be. I think he used to be a lot better at it than he is now. But so preparing myself for, I've never had to really prepare myself for press conferences, prepare myself for media obligations, prepare myself for being in the same room as a guy, because I've always felt like I was on par linguistically as my opponent. But you going up against a guy like Conor McGregor, there's a little bit more research, a little bit more visualization. I've never really visualized the trash talk aspect of things like I have now after spending 5-6 weeks with him in Vegas, doing The Ultimate Fighter, being around him, doing my research on him, his career, what he's done, where his faults are, where his cracks in his armor are, where his chinks in his armor are. So I don't have a psychological trash talk coach, but I am my own little encyclopedia of who my next opponent is, Conor. And I got it all right here to be able to hopefully pull it when I need it.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.